It's really good to see the sudden clamour around the issues on the sale of mortgages, but you'd have to ask the question, where were people for the last 7 years and what was being done? This isn't new. There's thousands. I'm sorry, Mr. Norris, could you please just let me speak.
When you make contentious comments, you expect an answer.
Sorry, Senator Norris.
It's an enormously serious problem that hasn't been tackled. And we know that. We know that from inside the central bank. Most of all people know it, people who have had to deal with vulture funds and indeed have had to deal with banks, because in some of this situation we talk as if, well, everything is perfect when it's the banks and the vulture funds, that's when people get into trouble. But the banks haven't behaved in the way that they are supposed to have behaved. Indeed, the central bank hasn't ensured that banks haven't behaved, and that is an ongoing problem and an ongoing challenge for us across the board. If we think back to the IBRC mortgage holders and the campaign they ran to bring attention to this issue, again, we had all of the same stuff that's been talked about now. Now, PTSB are coming into the Finance Committee next Tuesday. They have confirmed that. And so they should. Absolutely, so they should. And there were, yes, indeed, yeah. And there'll be many questions that we will be all putting to them, because we all know that vulture funds are not the right solution to the non-performing loans. They're not the right solution in terms of, and I get it, around the stability of permanent TSB or indeed any other bank. But this is not the way to do it, and there's too many questions to be asked around it. And the first question is, why can they not write down the loans for homeowners? I come across many homeowners and people who have properties who have offered the banks, and I've sat in on some of these repossession courts and all that, where people have offered, you know, where say 60,000 has been outstanding or whatever, and then they'll offer 50,000 maybe for the loan, or if they can borrow from a family member or something like that. Why cannot these amounts be accepted? It seems to be shutting the door completely on giving an opportunity to those who have been sold the property, and sometimes been sold that property recklessly. But why can't we give the same write-downs to them? And we really need to see a comparative analysis too. Right, okay. So you have the loan book and you have the bundles as they are. What would the difference be financially to giving the write-down on those loans and allowing some of the homeowners and business owners to buy out the loans instead of selling them off to foreign vulture funds who operate in an abyss out there, but certainly don't come under the remit of the regulations in this country. As was said, and I agree with Senator Norris on this, the vulture funds do what it says in the tin. We can't be given out about them, because that is exactly what they are, vultures. That's what they're set up to do, to make as much as they possibly can in the shortest period of time. So when we engaged with vulture funds in the first instance, and when the government thought it was a great idea to have them as part of the solution for the banks and all of that, for our financial system, really they should have thought down the road as to how exactly they were going to operate. Now, this question of performing and non-performing, I want to know who makes the decision about what's performing and what's non-performing. What is the criteria that's used in that? But who makes it up? Like, is it approved by government as to what a bank can consider to be performing loan and what to be a non-performing loan? We have never seen that. The transparency and this hiding behind, confidentiality and financial sensitivity and all of that is absolutely a nonsense. Particularly for some of these very straightforward questions about, is a loan considered to be non-performing if it's not paid back over a number of months or whatever. Also within these bundles, I think there needs to be further analysis, because I know where perfectly performing, what I certainly would consider perfectly performing loans have been bought by these funds, and they have been within 2-3 weeks. The vulture funds are there to say, no, we're closing you down. And what is really serious is often it's in situations where the business that's being bought or whatever is in a competitive situation with the business that the Vulture Funds already owns. You say as well, Minister, timely and complete information needs to be given to the borrowers. Like timely, are we saying timely before the loans are sold off? And what are we saying about complete information? We need to know what that is as well. All of these Vulture Funds will come and say, well, we're adhering to the Code of Conduct and all of that. But we need to know, they need to be told exactly what to do, as do the banks do. We know from the Finance Committee that the banks are trained within an inch of their lives to present and not to answer the questions that people need the answers to. The other thing around the Vulture Funds being asked to come before the Finance Committee several times, we know that these Vulture Funds have worn a path in and out to the Department of Finance. They have access to key personnel within the Department of Finance. I want to know who is at those meetings, what has been said at those meetings, is there records being kept of them, and all of that. They don't have to appear before a Finance Committee because they have access through the back door. And that absolutely has to stop. But we have to be able to see the information around all of that. My colleague Pearse Doherty had an amendment down in 2015 to the legislation that you refer to, which would have regulated the actual holder of the credit and not the credit servicer. But fine, Gael and Labour refused to support it. And that's what makes me really annoyed about what's happening today. They refused to support it, and Fianna Fail didn't even turn up. They didn't even turn up for the vote. So I am really sorry, but I think that the cries, no. They didn't turn up for the vote. So you cannot pretend to people. You cannot pretend to people that you care 7 years later and a number of years later.
Senator, your time's up, so if you just
when the solution was offered by Sinn Féin, Fianna Fail didn't even turn up. So I am really glad that they've turned up now. I'm really glad that they really care now. But let's get something done about this. I mean, I think a lot of it's too late. A lot of it is too late for the people who've been made homeless.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Senator Bruno Dungan. Thank you, Senator.
I welcome Fianna Fail's latest conversion on the road.
Thank you, Senator.